This video is brought to you by Morgan & Morgan. Stay tuned to find out more.
Morgan & Morgan? This?
Yeah, so it's always gonna be something new. When a person decides to be themselves, they offer something no one else can be.
Yeah, because once you be you, who could be you but you? That's what's wrong right now. Everybody trying to rap the same.
The thing is,
style.
I don't think rappers are copy and pasting this era, because it's so many niggas trying to be outside the fucking box and do every type of shit different and all that shit. To be honest, no, I can't make that crazy ass statement.
I don't know who created it, if it was Future or Migos, but all them sound the same.
Future Migos don't sound the same.
Generally speaking, they say that imitation is the most sincere form of flattery. When you're recognized as so much of an influence that others will then try to inject a little of that into themselves, the belief is that it should really be seen as a compliment. But in a highly competitive industry such as hip-hop, where every last shred of your individuality...
I can see how this is copy and paste these two. I don't know, I forgot who that is.
Paramount,
I can see how that's on copy and
the
paste.
notion of someone else stealing your style, cadence, flow, or concepts can be seen as one of the greatest crimes a rapper can commit. With high-profile examples of hip-hop sound-alikes including Action Bronson and Ghostface Killah, Lil Man Jay and Lil Baby, and to a much lesser extent, Izzy Drake and Perkio, when exactly do these extreme similarities cross the line from crazy coincidence to copy-paste music? When it comes to recent breakout stars in hip-hop, very few have experienced the kind of success as Kentucky's own Jack Harlow. Likable, vocally engaging, and by no means short on admirers.
I ain't gonna lie. Jack Harlow is likable, but his album did flop, though. I don't think nobody remembers. Excuse me. I don't think nobody remembers that shit.
His rise has seen him emerge
I fuck with
as
Jack
the toast
Harlow.
of the commercial realm,
I'm just saying.
occupied by Drake for much of the last decade. Coming across in a similar degree of marketability and female-heavy fan base, some believe that it's actually due to a concerted effort on Jack's part to dip into Drake's formula across his bars, rhyme schemes, and presentation. Although it's now garnered so much steam that The Fader published an article on the Drakeification of Jack, the notion of Harlow borrowing heavily from Drizzy's playbook is actually nothing new. In the words of Anthony Fantano, he actually wrote off much of his early work as derivative Drake drivel, but has since acknowledged that he has found his own voice to a certain degree. And although these comparisons have been bubbling around Jack before, they were
I ain't gonna lie. If Jack Harlow got the buzz and all that shit, and then Drake then it made it shit even higher, then it made the fucking album go. I don't know what the album did first week, but shit. This shit the buzz. It's just industry,
teamed
bro.
up with him on Churchill Downs. Among the highlights from his sophomore album, Come Home, The Kids Miss You, the pair trading bars over a late-night oriented number led many to see the comparisons come into sharp focus for the first time. And while some claimed that he held his own while emulating his hero, others believe that to suggest that he was holding his own alongside Drake, who said
I ain't gonna lie, I don't think Jack Harlow dropping another album this year.
To overstate Harlow's talent.
Probably not even next year.
Is nowhere near as nuanced and as layered as Drake was. None of the lines that Drake can normally spit in his earlier work. That comparison is just downright disrespectful.
I ain't gonna lie, Sean C, I can't listen to that, because his statements be so fucking bizarre and out the fucking, I don't know what type of music that nigga fucking like.
It's apparent when we hear a track like Churchill Downs, where even after adding a couple of additional bars to his verse, the gap between him and Drake is so big that you need the Hubble Space Telescope to cover the distance.
For now, it remains to be seen whether Jack will live up to his idol's success. Now at this point, we've come to the numerous artists who've sought to emulate the path of one of the consensus greatest to ever pick up the mic. In Eminem, an artist who had an indivisible role in bringing the sound of hip-hop to the mainstream,
like a 2000 picture.
Non-existent middle ground between white suburbia and the culture at large. Many artists ranging from Hopsin to J. Cole and his eventual nemesis of MGK have taken cues from Detroit's finest. However,
Hold up. Don't ever disrespect my nigga Jermaine fucking Cole like that, my nigga. Don't ever do that shit. That nigga ain't pick shit for no fucking body.
Have taken cues from Detroit's
that nigga.
However,
in fact, niggas wanna copy J. Cole.
The past decade or so, in which M's own stock among hip hop has come under fire like never before, is that rather than adopting the elements of vintage M which made him great, such as his fearlessness or knack for gripping confessional storytelling and making them their own, there is now a subset of shady indebted artists who seem intent on just bodying his modern rapidy rap style and suburban appeal. Among the main culprits who've come to fit into an M-shaped mold for a new generation is NF. Modeled after Shady to the extent that he even dresses like him, the fellow son of Michigan is so renowned for his similarities to Shady that USA Today once referred to him as an Eminem sound-alike in a headline. Not one to shy away from the effect that Shady had on him at a young age, NF openly told Idolator that he pretty much just listened to Eminem for 6 years during his formative years. However, if there's anything that we know about Shady, is that he's
Eminem
not
for
one to
6
take
years
things
is
like
fucking
this lying
crazy.
down.
I
And
couldn't
on the
do
ringer
it.
from his infamously combative project, Kamikaze, Mathers fired a shot in his direction as he spit, "I'd just be like everyone else in the industry, especially an effing recovery clone of me." In a similar vein as NF, another young rapper who's liberally pulled from Shady without making any apologies is Token. Having infamously turned down a meeting with him during his early career, the now 23-year-old MC has always suggested that he has the utmost respect for him. And when it appeared that Shady may have thrown a shot his way, he maintained that, "I'd be stupid to come at someone who I grew up listening to and I'm clearly influenced by."
Shit, I don't give a fuck if I grew up listening to that nigga, influenced by that nigga or not. If you come for me, I'm definitely coming back at your ass.
Song The Greatest off the Kamikaze album. M says, "No more shiners, already too much time. Token rappers, I hear you talking, I'm just too big to respond to it." Folks thought that he was talking about you. I'm glad you saying it's not a diss, because he been serving up careers lately.
I get sent those lyrics all the time, but the thing is, to me, my automatic thinking is like, what are you talking about? Like, I still feel like I'm the same kid who's listening to Eminem show. I never took it as a diss.
Did you know that on average, there are around...
I don't give a fuck about Morgan Morgan.
Over one lawyer.
Shit.
So why shouldn't you?
Damn.
That's Pound. Over the years, Logic has faced allegations of literally stealing from the catalogs of other artists. But even when he's been reproached by the culture for taking cues from the likes of Kanye or J. Cole, there's no claim that has dogged his career quite like the narrative that he borrows from Kendrick Lamar. Sparked initially by the song Everybody's similarity in flow and beat to Kendrick's Alright, this perception is one that Logic has steadfastly denied, with the Maryland rapper even going as far to say that K-Dot's landmark major label debut...
The thing is, all these rappers, all these, Eminem clones and all this, like one said he from Maryland, the other one dude from Michigan. Like they coming from these YT states.
Actually went over his head at first.
I didn't like it because I wasn't into Kendrick Lamar doing all his weird voices. I didn't like that. I like J. Cole. I didn't like all these skits. I didn't like having to sit through 9 minutes of a song. I didn't like it. And then I loved it because I sat with it.
On other occasions, Logic suggested that any similarities between his music and that of K-Dot are a byproduct of them both operating at the top of their game. When you make great music, I think they compare you to great artists.
I don't listen to Logic, I don't listen to
understand that a lot of the musicians I was working with,
Hopsin, I don't listen to Token, I don't listen to
like that musicality of
NF.
having Terrace Martin there,
I don't
take
listen to
beats
none
from
of them.
Euphonics, you know? I think they're realizing this. Regardless of his many protests and different vantage points that he's put forth, it still doesn't change the fact that this notion has persisted to such an extent that a video entitled "Logic Stealing from Kendrick Lamar for 5 minutes Straight" has over 400,000 views on YouTube. Next,
I need to watch that shit.
Playboi Carti. Specifically his kids, Mario Judah and
Oh my god, bro. Oh my fucking god. This where we get into my fucking lane. Mario Judah is not a fucking clone of Playboi Carti. He just did that shit because attention. So he probably made some fucking money off that shit. And cause he done drop a whole lot of red at that given point in time. And Yeet is not a fucking clone of Playboi Carti. In fact, Yeet started his own fucking wave. Niggas want to copy Yeet. For sure.
Given that he's the focal point of a cult fan base and youth movement, it should be entirely unsurprising that
But I can't lie, Playboi Carti did start a fucking wave, but Yeet, I don't put him in that wave, you know?
some budding artists have been inspired by Playboi Carti. With Die Lit and his self-titled project viewed as sacred texts, Mario Judah, who exploded onto the scene with his own metal-influenced delivery, was so proficient at parodying his hero's sound that he released music copying Carti as a way to leverage the release of Whole Lotta Red.
Yo! Playboi Carti! Where's Whole Lotta Red, bro? It's been 2 years, bro. If it's not here and delivered to the world before December 6th, I will drop it myself. Do you understand? This is not a game! This is not a drill!
I remember this shit. That was Prime Mario Judah.
Whole Lotta Red, or I will do it for you before December 6th!
When the record never showed up on the deadline, Mario stuck to his word and delivered a project which had all the hallmarks of Carti's trademark style, gaining him both the annoyance and begrudging respect of Carti's cult-like fanbase. Rather than being even marginally malicious, Mario's decision was based off his own personal affinity for Carti, and it's a love that hasn't waned even as he became a star in his own right.
Deadass, he comes out and drops, I'm just gonna be happy, bro. Even before I was like being an artist, bro, I was one of those kids in the comment section. Like when nobody knew me, like, bro, drop Whole Lotta Red. I felt like now that when I had a platform, I could speak on it and try to get him to drop it and like stick up for like the people who want it. You know?
Yet, while Mario may be the only man who is
Where
actively
is Mario
sought to
Jeter right
create
now?
this
That's
sound,
the thing,
he
bro.
certainly
I
isn't
miss
his only
my
descendant. Alongside Cardi's own protege, Ken Carson, recent
that's-
breakout rapper Yeet
that's
hasn't
a
exactly
comparison.
been shy about his influences. And according to academics, this has been crucial in building his reputation within the game.
3 industry artists literally looked at me and said, half of the reason why Yeet is popping is because people think that Cardi with him. People care about who Cardi with, who sounds
is
like
true,
him. I've gotten just more appreciation for Cardi.
Next up, Cordae. When Cordae first came out of the gate,
I can see this. I ain't gonna lie. I fuck with Cordae a lot. I do. I really do. And they gonna say like a J. Cole clone, a Kendrick Lamar clone, all this other shit. But who else do we fucking have besides him?
he built himself as an emboldened and lyrically adept voice for a new generation who had had enough of old heads critiquing them. In his rebuttal to J. Cole's 1985, Cordae was positioned as not so much of a disciple of Cole, but as a worthy adversary. But after the initial buzz tapered off and Cordae set his sights on a prosperous career, he began to bear a startling resemblance to the work of Cole in terms of both his worldview and his beat selection. Yet, even as it became apparent, Cordae sought to shut down the narrative as fast as it could come up. "Nah, I don't hear that," he retorted when asked if he was a baby J. Cole by Billboard. "I get all types of comparisons. I feel like it's unfair to them, you know what I'm saying? They're 10, 20 years in this thing. I don't deserve those comparisons in my eyes. It's an honor, but also, I'm my own artist and my own person." While this was acknowledged to a degree on his debut album, The Lost Boy, the concept of him being a Cole clone who had yet to find his own artistic identity really began to pick up some steam on his sophomore record, From a Bird's Eye View.
Oh, Cordae on From a
That was a
Bird's
good ass
Eye
album, I ain't gonna lie to
View is
you.
making old music at 24 years old. Cole
Bro, you say you making old nigga music at 24.
has been
That's
criticized
crazy.
for being one of the most sleepy, boring MCs that we have to offer in our generation. But
We don't
Cole,
have
at the
any
very
MCs
least,
anymore.
From a rapper's point of view, I would consider
The definition of MC is old people now, I guess. Because all the MCs now, who the fuck is the MC now that blows up? That's really hot.
a pretty good to almost great rapper. That doesn't mean that all of his music is good. It just means that he has a skill set that can at least separate him from or put himself so far ahead of anyone that he's influencing that he would be the preference to anyone trying to adopt or copy his style. Every single track on this Bird's Eye View album, I'm thinking J. Cole would sound good on this. These are damn near the come up era level songs.
With Cordae recently admitting that he'd taken an artistic stumble on From a Bird's Eye View, which was admirable, only time will tell if he can pick himself back up and step out of Cole's shadow. Juice WRLD and Kid Laroi, the two flagship.
This is right down my fucking alley. I can't. So I feel like I got the fucking right to say some shit about this shit. Juice WRLD was Kid Laroi mentor. Like what the fuck you expect? But Kid Laroi now is definitely stepping out. He been stepped out of the fucking lane of being like the Juice WRLD clone and all this other shit. There's more niggas I can say right now, but I know for sure are Juice WRLD clones, but Kid Laroi is not one of them no more.
Artists of grade A
I don't
productions
think he ever
during their
was.
heyday, Juice WRLD and the Kid Laroi
They're part of
may
the same
have come
label
from
too.
vastly different backgrounds, but
And I think Grady was trying to push Kid Laroi to sound like Juice once Juice had died, R.I.P. Juice. But I'm just saying, like, shit. So as soon as Kid Laroi left grade A, he started sounding way mad different.
evidently kindred spirits. In fact, for the Australian Laroi, it was Juice who encouraged him to head stateside in the first place.
I was a fan, so that was really another reason why I really, was with them so hard, because I just loved Juice and what he was doing. So I learned a lot of stuff being around him and his process and how he records. I definitely did learn a lot.
Laroi has never shied away from the tutelage he received from Juice, but maintained that it was overstated at times.
So I just observe a lot of the stuff that he did. People always think that he gave me a rule book about how to record it. But no, it was really just me observing.
Having claimed that before we even met, you were my favorite artist, in the promotional content which accompanied his tribute song, Tell Me Why, it's clear that Laroi feels a responsibility to pay homage to his hero wherever possible,
Hell
even
yeah.
after parting
Oh,
ways
shit.
with Bibby and Grade A. Post Malone. When Post Malone first came out of the gate, his presence was one that was met with confusion, initially seeming more like a pastiche of
I
hip-hop.
ain't gonna lie, Post Malone is in his own fucking lane. Like, I don't think you can compare Post Malone to anybody else.
than an active participant in it, his early tracks such as White Iverson were heavily steeped in the melodic, auto-tune rich style of artists who have found a profitable middle ground between decadence and sadness. And as the hits kept coming, some believe that Post's vocal style and trap production had its roots in the gloriously toxic discography of Future. I love his music, but you can't tell me that that ain't Future, said T.I. of Posty's earlier output in 2019. There's some Future in there. He does it well, but let's call it what it is. Even as he was...
Now let's be for real now. That's stupid as fuck.
Pejoratively labeled a fake Future by Charlamagne the God, Post has never steered away from the influence that Pluto had on him during the early stages of his career.
I've always been a big Future fan. He's Trap Jesus. He's got a lot of soul in his voice. A lot of haters don't really give him the credit that he deserves because auto-tune, but he's a fantastic vocalist.
Despite accusations that he's essentially derived much of his style from Future, the duo
I've never
has
thought of
since
him being like
collaborated
Future.
on numerous occasions, including Hollywood's Bleeding standout, Die For Me. In recent years, few people have evolved and
Don't
garnered
piss me
respect
off.
for their artistic growth quite like
Don't
21
piss me
Savage.
off,
Having
man.
navigated far away from where he was in the days of Issa, the
Don't
album,
piss me
UK
off.
born, Atlanta-based artist has now surpassed everyone's expectations of him and has become a force in the
I ain't gonna lie, if 21 Savage would have stayed in his vocal set and in his set that he was like this set right here, like the Issa album, all that shit, and he never grew, he probably would have fell off. Like his growth was definitely needed, and he's like one of the top of that 2016 XXL group. To be honest.
in the process. Unsurprisingly, this has meant that some people have taken aspects of his approach and aligned them with their own, most notably Florida's Nardo Wick. Equipped with the same sort
I can
of
see that.
eerie
I can see
sedate
that. I can see
delivery
this
and
one.
gritty upbringing to boot,
I
many
can see
fans
this
believe
one,
that he was
actually.
culling directly from the 21 Savage playbook. But to Nardo's mind, it was not only completely unintended, but it was also just a matter of content.
The only reason you could compare is because his voice is so monotone. So, and it sounds like 21 Savage a little bit because his voice is monotone.
I understand it now a little bit, he told XXL, because now I done sat down and really listened to him. We both dark, that's where people get it from. As for whether or not 21 had been aggravated by the similarities in style, any speculation that it may cause friction between the two was all but put to bed when the pair linked up for the Who Want the Smoke remix. Perhaps imitation is the greatest form of flattery, but without a new spin on an original style, continued imitation is perhaps one of the greatest crimes a rapper can commit. Rappers sounding like other rappers is bound to happen though, and there's plenty of space in the game to appreciate younger artists being heavily influenced by older artists and taking the flows.
Yeah. Mainstream hip hop hasn't been run to the ground, but it's definitely different. A whole bunch of people that are underlooked and overlooked too, and the labels be pushing out trash ass fucking rappers.